Hello, and welcome to my data cleansing using VBA tutorial on Excel YouTube presentation. Today I'm going to teach people how to use VBA in order to cleanse their data when they have large spreadsheets on Excel and condense it into useful data. This is very useful for businesses and students who have hundreds of inputs in their Excel spreadsheets and want to confine and find the most important data, and then you can use it ultimately for data mining and making decision trees, or just helping a business's Excel spreadsheet look more professional. So in this case, today we're going to look at a website called Kaggle, and with this is a great website for all students to be able to take advantage of data mining and data analytics. And in this instance, we are looking at the Titanic Machine Learning from Disaster project. And for what I'm going to do now, I'm going to download the training data, which will come up like this. And this whole project is pretty much trying to predict who survived on the Titanic using data analytics, and in this case we'll be using VBA. So now on the right, this is the Excel spreadsheet that came up, and this contains all the data about the names, the sex, the age of everyone on the Titanic. And now as you can see, some of this data might not be useful. Some of them have nulls, which are empty cells, such as these. And something like ticket number might not be useful for predicting who survived. So we sort of want to condense the important data and find the proper data that will help us predict who truly survived. Now on the left is a notepad of sort of all the step-by-step procedure that you could take in order to clean data in this circumstance. So now VBA, it focuses on the behind-the-scenes activation of Excel. So in order to get behind the scenes, all you do is press Alt F11. This will bring you to the the VBA platform. Here this is where you'll insert your codes, and then you'll ultimately play your macros, and they will condense your Excel, they'll refine your Excel spreadsheet to exactly what you want. It's really nice because you tell Excel what you want it to do. So in this case, let's say we wanted to even just make all the titles bold. You would literally just you type in the code, and then you're going to tell the program what to do, and it will do it. It's pretty great. So now for time constraints, I've already created the modules and the code for you to refine the data, but I'm going to do a step-by-step and show how you would clean the data for this particular circumstance. Now, so for number one, we're going to insert the module, insert a procedure, name it, and then we're going to enter the code. And for this exact task, we're going to delete the sort of useless columns, in my opinion, as in it's going to be the name, the part, and the ticket. Now, we go back to VBA, the behind the scenes. What you're going to do is insert a module, and then on this left side you can name it, and you can name it delete. We'll name it delete column, because we want to delete all the bad columns. And on the name, you always want to name your procedures and your modules, just for organization. It's a great habit to have. And then you're going to insert a procedure, and then you'll name this delete column as well. Press enter, and then the start and end of the code will appear. And on the right, these are all your procedures that you can use and that you've created, and on the left are just general declarations that you can make. Now for this circumstance, I've already created the code for the delete column, so I'm going to exit out of that, and we're going to do so for this one, I've already created this, and so this is the delete and bold column. So in this code, as you can see, all the green sentences are comments, so they will not be part of your code. This is just a good step-by-step direction on allowing people to understand what each code means. So the delete name column, this is declaring the active sheet, which is the worksheet on the, which is the worksheet that we're using. And then column 4, which is the name column, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to entire column delete. And then you're going to do the same thing with column 8 and 9, which are the parch and the ticket columns. And then I'm also going to name all the column names bold, so that's active sheet, and the range is 1:1 because that's just the first row of each column. And then you do font.bold equals true. And when you run this, you can go to your VBA. If you go to developer and you do your macros, all you do is you click your bold column names. Actually, we'll do delete the columns first because we want to delete our bad columns, and you can run that, and then all of the columns will delete immediately. And then when you want to bold it, all you do is bold column names, and there you go. Now you have bolded and condensed columns. So now we're all the way down to the next module, and this module was the delete empty columns. And here, if you had any blanks, say the embarked was 1 over in J, you could run this macro, delete empty columns, and you could just list the range. You do Control-Shift down and across, and you press Enter, and it'll condense all the columns yet again, which is a very convenient code to have, especially for businesses and cleaning data. So this code was simply, I inserted a module and I inserted a procedure, and I called it delete empty columns. And you're going to dim your ranges, you'll set your input ranges, and then you tell VBA to pretty much choose any range, and then it'll delete any columns that have blanks in it. And then it does it to each column throughout the workbook, which is very convenient. So we just ran that. And then another fun thing is we want to, for the age, some of the ages don't have any ages in them, so it's called a null cell. So in this macro, I told Excel to highlight all of the null cells and then input and whatever you want to put into the entry, into the null cell. In this case, earlier I took the average of all the ages, and it's 30. And so I'm just going to put year 30 into each of the null cells with a simple code. And this code looks like this. So once again, I did the comments. You fill an empty or blank cell in the selection, and then you're going to get an input box. And on the input box, it'll ask you whatever you want to enter into any of the null cells, and then any of the null cells value will be the input value. And then it's called a loop, and it goes next throughout all the null cells throughout that one column. So in this case, we're going to open, Alright, so in this case, we're going to click on the age column, and we're going to highlight Control-Shift down. Let's go like this. And we'll highlight all the way till the end of the data set. Perfect. And then we'll run our macro. Insert value into nulls, and here we go. Enter value that will fill empty cells in selection. We'll do 30, enter, and voila. all of the empty cells now have a 30 in it. And finally, I'm going to teach you how to... Alright, now we're going to make the age. We want to define any childs and adults and create a new column for all the children and adults, which will help us with our predictions, because usually children survived more than the adults. So in this case, we're going to make a new column in J, and we want any person who is less than 18 will be considered a child, and any person greater than 18 will be an adult. Now in this case, we'll go back to our VBA code and a child adult. So now this one, like I said, you're going to set your range, and you are looking for the number 18, and this code pretty much tells if it's greater than or equal to 18, then that value will be an adult. If it's less than 18, then it'll be considered a child. And then I'm also going to name the new column life status. So the range of J1 and the value is life status. So we're going to put J1, that's going to be life status, and then it's going to be child, adult, whatever the entry should be. So we'll go ahead, run this macro. We called it child, adult. And there we go. Now there's all adults, and then a child, as you can see in row 10 or 11. Someone was 14 years old, so now they're considered a child. So that's pretty convenient as well. And then finally, I want to do one more thing with the class and their fare. So now any ticket fare, I took another average, and the average was $32 for a ticket fare. And so what we're going to do is as you can see, we're going to declare the ticket, and if it's going to be lower class if it's less than $32, and upper class if it's more than $32. And this is the code that I used yet again, and you'll see it once I'm in the VBA. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty similar to the adult child, but different just because you're using different data set. So we'll go back to the VBA, and we'll open, I called it UCLC for upper class, lower class. Same exact thing. You do insert module, insert procedure, you name your module, and you name your procedure. And this is exactly what's over here in my notepad, but this is a more visual description of what's going on. So like I said, in range H2 to H892, which is all the fare data points, we're telling VBA to look for the number 32, and if the cell is 32 or more, then it'll be considered upper class, and if it's $32 or less, it'll be considered lower class. And likewise, the title of the new column will be called class. So we'll go ahead and we'll run this macros. UCLC, and there we go. So now we have upper class and we have lower class, and this will also help us because mostly in the Titanic we think the lower class citizens unfortunately were the first to, or the upper class people were more likely to survive, and the lower class unfortunately were not. So this will just be good for our data mining and maybe making a decision tree to help increase our efficiency in our predictions. So pretty much this is all I have for VBA and data cleansing. It's very, very useful resource to have. You can go on Google and you can look up things. You can watch YouTube videos like this. It's just very useful, I think, in the workforce, in school, in data analytics. It's very essential. And as you can see, all you do is just type in some code, and you're more than welcome. I'll post this code on the bottom of the page as well. And feel free to email me. But Google and the internet are great resources if you ever have questions in VBA. And it's really, really fun. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Goodbye.